What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's get started. Let's continue my NFL offseason preview series. We are going to jump to the AFC West this time. We're going to start with the Denver Broncos. Of course, fantastic season. Win 14 games, number one seed in the AFC, but lose in the AFC Championship game in a tough one to the New England Patriots. Of course, Bo Nix was injured after breaking his ankle against Buffalo. So Denver's in a really good spot. They got a very good young team. You're led by one of the best coaches in the National Football League, in Sean Payton. He's a fantastic coach. Obviously, has his own way of doing things, but he gets the job done. He wins a lot. Brilliant mind. And a very good young quarterback in Bo Nix, who I thought took a step forward in his second season, which was after a pretty strong rookie year as well. So Denver, they need to add another legit receiver to the mix. Defensively, they're one of the best units in all of football. Between having the best defensive player in the league or best second best defensive player in the league, maybe third best defensive back in the league in Pat Surtain. At corner, former defensive player of the year. Up front, guys like Zach Allen and DJ Jones. Obviously adding guys like Dre Greenlaw, Tuano Hufanga last year. Nick Bonito last year had a fantastic year. Wasn't all pro. So they're in a good spot. They're projected to have about $26 million in cap space. They got to get a legit number two receiver. I like Courtland Sutton a lot. He's very good. These last 2 years, he's really taken off as a true number one wide receiver in the NFL. But they need a legit number two receiver. Trey Franklin was decent this year. Of course, went to college with Bo Nix at Oregon. Very close with Bo Nix. And he's a fine slot receiver, but he's not a legit second receiver. Marvin Mims is a really good kick returner, serviceable wide receiver, but not a legit number two receiver. They got to get one more game-changing receiver in that room for Bo Nix. They also could use, I added one more running back. J.K. Dobbins is going to be a free agent. He was hurt down the stretch this past year. I like R.J. Harvey. I like when they drafted him last year in the second round. Overall was very solid, I thought, after he took over the reins from an injured J.K. Dobbins down the stretch. But still hasn't, been a three down back for an extended period of time for a full season. I would not want to risk, not having much of a running game. You didn't have much of a running game in Bo's first year, and the offense was held back as a result. Don't risk that. I would add another veteran back to the mix. You don't have to, spend a crap ton of money on Breece Hall or give up, 2-3 draft picks to get Alvin Kamara. It can just be somebody, just a solid back to kind of keep him in line, so to speak. If you're able to add a Breece Hall, that'd be fantastic. I think that makes your offense super dynamic if you can add a legit playmaking running back like that to your arsenal. But it does not have to be, a guy like that. You can add just a solid back just to kind of take some pressure off of RJ Harvey. Those should be your top two concerns. You have the quarterback, you have the coach, you have an elite defense, you have one of the best young offensive lines in all of football. Just you gotta get a couple more weapons for Bo Nix. Next up, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. So Chargers, another first-round playoff exit for Justin Herbert and the Chargers, losing 16-3 to New England on the road. But the Chargers, they're in good shape. They do have $82 million in cap space. That is what they are projected to have. They the third most in the entire NFL, which is pretty crazy because Justin Herbert, we've already paid, and he's due over $4 to $6 million next year. You got to help him out. For the love of God, please do two things. First of all, give him some sort of offensive line. I know they were injured this past year. Having Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, two all-pro level tackles, healthy next year, hopefully at least, it will go a long way. But even so, the interior is not very good. You brought in Mekhi Becton last year after he moved to guard with Philadelphia, after a weak tenure at tackle with the Jets. Gave him a multi-year deal. He was very bad last year. I'm not sure if we're keeping him on the roster anymore. You would save $10 million almost if you cut him. I think that's something they should look into. Yes, they don't need the cap necessarily. You want to have depth on the offensive line, especially with all the injuries they have, but I don't think he's a $12 million player. You're better off putting that into the line somewhere else. Bradley Bozeman, your center, was really bad. I'd probably move on from him, especially since he's starting to be 32 years old. But they have to revamp the offensive line. They also need a true number one receiver. I like Lab McConkey. He's a good slot receiver. He took a bit of a step back this past year. I do think he's a very good receiver, but he's not a true one. Quentin Johnson, when healthy this past year, did have a decent year. Put a lot of his drop issues to bed. Had the best year of his career, but he's still not a true number one wide receiver. He's a second or a third option at best. So they have to go out there and get a proven number one wide receiver in that room. If they can make it work, I would look into maybe calling the Eagles and seeing if AJ Brown is available. You know, I'm not sure if Philly will get a first round pick back from him because it's pretty obvious that he's unhappy. That some teams are going to take into account. So especially if you can keep your first round pick, I would go and get AJ Brown if you think you can make it work. With the personality. Jim Harbaugh's much better leader than Nick Sirianni. You could probably make that work. He'll get the ball a little bit easier with Justin Herbert than with Jalen Hurts. I think that could be a very good fit. I think that'll be something that the Chargers should look into. And if they can, handle him as well, I even look to sign Tyreek Hill. I think that could he's still a legit down to throw when he's healthy, even at 32 years old and with as much baggage as you could possibly have. But they gotta get another one wideout in there as well. I like Omarion Hampton. I think they'll be fine in the running game. They have enough depth with Kamani Vidal there, and defensively they're very very good. They do lose, just you mentioned, their defensive coordinator takes the head coach job in Baltimore, but I think the defense will be more than fine. They're a very talented unit, but offensive line, especially in the interior, and wide receiver should be the top two needs, the top of the Chargers list. Next team we're going to talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs. So Chiefs, the reign of terror ended at least temporarily this past year, going shockingly just 6-11. With Patrick Mahomes, your star quarterback, suffers a brutal injury. Well, not me brutal, but torn ACL late in the season. He's going to try and play week one. But the Chiefs are in a tough spot. They are almost $60 million over the cap heading in to the offseason. That's the worst mark in the NFL. I think there's a way for them to recreate some cap space. Mahomes is due $78 million. In the past, he has been willing to kind of retool his deal so that it can be easier for the Chiefs. I would not be surprised if that's what they do. The way the deal is structured, he's due $78.2 million this coming year, $74 million plus in 2027. And then the last 4 years of the deal, it drops up substantially. Still is making $40+ million every year. But so I think the way that it's structured, he's got 6 more years left on that deal. So I have a feeling that he is going to probably restructure his deal a bit. He'll take a lower cap hit this year, maybe next year, and maybe a higher cap hit the rest of the way. Chris Jones might do the same. He's due almost $45 million, which is an insane number for a defensive tackle, especially when he's going to be 32 years old, but he is still one of the best in the game. 2 years left on his contract. Chiefs are going to have to do something because this roster is flawed. The offensive line is not very good. Jawan Taylor's on one of the worst contracts in the NFL. But he's going into the last year of it. I expect him to be cut. That would save the Chiefs about $20 million if they cut him. I expect him to be let go. And the rest of the line, Creed Humphrey is an all-pro at center. Trey Smith is an all-pro at guard. But the rest of that line is really ugly looking. They got to improve the offensive line. They got to get another receiver in there. Xavier Worthy is a decent receiver. He's very fast, but doesn't have the best hands in the world. Not a true one. And Rashee Rice is good. I think he's a bit overrated, but he's a good receiver. He's got good speed. But obviously a lot of off-the-field issues as well. And so they got to get some receivers in there. Still waiting on Travis Kelce. There's rumors like this is going to be his last year. He's going to retire. But I heard he's leaning towards playing another year. But I do think it's time to start thinking about his heir apparent. Regardless, he is not near the same player. He's much, much older. Seems a bit more focused on his podcast and his fiancee, Taylor Swift. So I would look into that. And even defensively, they weren't as efficient this year on defense. I like George Karlaftis from a first round back. He's a good edge rusher. We all know what Chris Jones is. Nick Bolton's a good linebacker. But I would look to add one more good outside corner. Trent McDuffie is a Pro Bowl slot corner. They need one more really good outside corner as well. The first thing first, they gotta find a way to figure out this cap situation because they are pushing $58 million over the cap. That's a crazy number. And last but not least, well, kind of least because they are very bad, the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders are a complete disaster. But they are armed with $87.8 million in cap space. That's the second most in the NFL besides the Tennessee Titans. And of course, they have the first overall pick. So obviously, make sure you take from that Mendoza. I think that goes without saying. They got to figure out what they're doing with Max Crosby. Well, Crosby is one of the best defensive players in all of football, an absolute beast coming off the edge. But he's doing almost $36 million next year, 29 years old. You know, he did just sign that $106 million extension, but he doesn't seem very happy there. I think the best bet is to trade him. You got to get at least a first-round pick back, but maybe that's not the worst idea. I know even the defense, even with him, was relatively weak. It was not a great unit, but if the guy isn't happy there, you haven't done right by him. I don't think it's a bad idea to trade him. You know, that allows you to save some money down the line, get back a bunch of draft picks, and you could really rebuild this roster. But first thing first, they got to improve the offensive line. They had maybe the worst offensive line in the league last year. A rookie quarterback coming in. You got a very talented young running back in Ashton Genty as well. You have to improve that god-awful offensive line. It has to be better. That's something that they're definitely going to need to look into. They need a true number one wide receiver. I think Trey Tucker is decent. We have one of the league's best tight ends, maybe the league's best tight end in Brock Bowers. Maybe outside of Trey McBride at this point in a guy like Travis Kelce and George Kittle's careers. But, you need more for sure. And you got to add a couple of pieces. Defensively, I like Clint Kubiak. I think he can make a good head coach. But, you got to get some better personnel in there. So you definitely got to revamp the offensive line, add a top-level wide receiver. And you got to add a couple of pieces of defense, especially if you trade away Max Crosby. But take advantage of that because you're probably going to get at least a first round. You should at least get a first round pick back. And Geno Smith is definitely going to be cut. They would save, I think, $8 million if they cut him. No way they're keeping him on the roster for $26.5 million and nearly $40 million in 2027. He'll be 37 years old. So he's definitely going to be let go. Let's recap Monday Night Raw from last night. So the opening promo was The Vision, which just sucked as usual. Vision came out. First the Usos came out to Jey Uso's music again. Paul Heyman eventually got to stop and interrupted with his group. And he was yapping. Then Pierce came out and says, enough of this. And then Heyman said, I want Bronson Reed in the chamber. And Pierce says if he earns a spot, would set up a triple threat qualifying match for next week on Raw between Bronson Reed, the OG El Grande Americano, and Jey Uso, which is kind of disgusting, but whatever. Then LA Knight came out, as he's still stuck in the Vision vortex, and that set up a six-man tag between LA Knight, the Usos, and the Vision picking up a win. The Vision is so utterly terrible, it's not even funny. Bronson Reed, who's a really talented wrestler, but somehow has become a background character despite beating Roman Reigns a few months ago. Austin Theory, I don't know what they're doing with him. They're not letting him cut promos. He's been presented very poorly. And Logan Paul, people need to realize, he's not good. He's terrible. He's not good. No one likes him. It's enough. Poor Paul Heyman's trying his best to keep that career relevant. It's not working. That way, the match is the next thing on my docket here. Elimination qualifier triple threat. Bayley versus Asuka versus Natty. Asuka picks up the win. A very good match. Asuka gets Bayley to tap out. I wouldn't mind if Asuka won. They're keeping the title on Jade now. Bianca Blair's going to miss WrestleMania because she's having another finger surgery, unfortunately. Asuka, I think, will be a prime candidate to possibly win a chamber and face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. I'd rather just take the tail off Jade now, but we can't all have nice things. But Asuka picks up the win. Definitely the right winner. We had a CM Punk promo talking about Finn Balor's his match with Finn Balor for the world title at the Elimination Chamber. Then Balor came out with Dom and JD McDonough. And Finn cut a nice promo, and then Punk kind of spat back at him, and then, of course, threw the microphone right at his chest, and then left. Honestly, I think there could be something here with Finn Balor. Finally, looked like he's turning him face, finally. Thank God. I would look into maybe a similar storyline to WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan. Maybe get some authority figures involved. I'll say the timing with Triple H. Maybe this time it'll be Adam Pearce with Finn Balor. You know, maybe get him, if he gets over enough with the crowd, maybe force him into that main event with Roman and Punk and make it a triple threat. And maybe throw ideas to have Finn Balor win the title. I would have had put the title on him a couple of weeks ago on Raw in Ireland. That's what I would have done. Yeah, I think it would make sense. Punk beat Finn in his hometown. Have Finn beat Punk in his hometown. I don't think they're gonna do it, but just saying that would be something to look at. And then we had Penta was the mystery opponent for El Grande Americano. Penta picks up the win with the OG El Grande Americano, kind of helping him out. No, this El Grande shtick is so stupid. AJ Lee's promo, of course, was interrupted by Becky Lynch. I love AJ Lee, but man, her promo skills need a little bit of work. I cannot stand CM Punk, but he is a good mic talker. Can she watch one of her husband's promos ever? Like, I don't understand. And the main event, Chamber qualifier, Javon Evans against Gunther against Dom Mysterio. Javon Evans picks up the win. He qualifies for the men's elimination chamber. Congratulations to him. Also, screw Kevin Nash. Calling him two Mr. Bojangles for me. Dude, shut up. Go back to your stupid mansion and shut the hell up. Freaking old hack. Javon Evans is one of the best wrestlers in the world right now at just 21 years old. The right winner. Thank you, Dragon Lee, for interfering and not letting Gunther win. Gunther's boring as hell. No reason to put him in the chamber. Also, why the hell was Dom Mysterio just not involved in the match at all? His booking's been so bad since WrestleMania. So that was Raw. It was pretty bad, but I watched, and I'm sure all you watched as well. So we had a small signing in baseball. The Padres signed Walker Buehler to a minor league deal. So Buehler's had his career completely derailed by injuries these last couple of years. He emerged as one of the elite young arms in the game. Pretty much right away after being called up. In 2018 was a finalist for Rookie of the Year. In 23 starts had a 2.62 ERA. Then 30 starts went 14-4 with 3.26 ERA. In 19 was an All-Star. In 21, level league in starts had a 2.47 ERA, went 16-4, finished fourth in the Cy Young voting. I thought should have won it that year. 2022, I got to a bit of a slow start. Then has Tommy John, had a really long recovery. Missed all of 2023. 2024 came back. He struggled. The 5.38 ERA, though, did pitch well in the postseason. He closed out the World Series for the Dodgers, but last year signed a 1 year with the Red Sox and was really bad in 22 starts with a 5.45 ERA and 112 in the third innings. He had 55 walks, 112 in the third. He pitched very briefly for the Phillies at the very end of the year. He only gave up 1 run in 13 2/3, but not a lot of innings, of course. But he's going to be 31. He has not pitched a full season in 5 years, going 31, but it's a minor league deal. He's familiar with the division. If they get anything out of him, it would be a reward for the San Diego Padres. And also, the Major League Baseball Players Association is going to be stepping down at the I think at the end of the season. He's apparently it's going to happen today, which is might be good and might be bad timing with the lockout coming next year, but we'll see where that goes. But my main event segment for today is that I'm going to take you through my top 32 quarterbacks from this past season. I do this every year, right before the season, right after every season. Well, so let's get into it. Just want to get this out of the way. J.G. McCarthy did not make the list, nor did Shedeur Sanders. They were so ass, they were not even one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL this past year. Number 32, I have Geno Smith. He was really bad. Led the league in the interceptions. Had 17 interceptions in 15 games. That's just horrific. Every drive was either 3 and out or a turnover. He's definitely done. Nice little career renaissance with the Seahawks in 2022 when he made the Pro Bowl, completed league high 69.8% of his passes, threw 30 touchdowns, 400 yards, but seems to have gotten worse every single year, and he's just washed. He was atrocious. He comes in at 32. Number 31 is Michael Penix. I don't see how after the guy's had what? 4 ACLs dating back to college in 6 years. I don't see how he comes back from that. He looked pretty bad this past year. In 9 games, completed just 60% of his passes for just over 1,900 yards with just 9 touchdowns. I don't see how they're going to get really anything out of the guy. Like, he protects the football pretty well, but they're only had 3 interceptions in the 9 games. But like, I don't know what they're going to get out of him. He was not very impressive this year. Hasn't been impressive at all. There was, the fragments of his 2 seasons that he's played. We all questioned the pick at the time. If they drafted him, we thought it was a reach taking him at 8th overall. When they took him, and it's blown up in their faces. We kind of all expected. For a guy with this injury history, and he was already 24 years old coming into Blaze. They're going to be 26 this coming year. And he has 12 career starts and 14 career games played. At number 30, it's Marcus Mariota. So he started a bunch of games this year. I didn't put, some guys who started like fragments. Like I didn't put Carson Wentz on the list. Like he had like 4 starts. But Mariota did start in 8 games the past year and played in a total of 11 games. He can play 61% of his passes for just under 700 yards, 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Like, he wasn't good, but like he was serviceable-ish, considering he was just thrown into action because of an injured Jane Daniels. The whole team was injured in Washington. He's a fine backup in the NFL. I'm sure he'll find a job doing the exact thing that he's been doing for years this coming season with somebody. He might get a chance to start because of how desperate some teams are for quarterbacks and how bad this draft is for quarterbacks. At 29, I have Cam Ward. So for most of the year, Cam Ward did struggle as a rookie. I'm not super high on him, but I don't really blame him. Titans were just a horrific football team this past year. Though he did show some promise toward the end of the year. Obviously still really young. First overall pick last year. Going to be only 24 years old next year. His numbers weren't good. Only completed 59% of his passes, but over 3,100 yards, 15 touchdowns against 7 interceptions. At least he wasn't turning the ball over too much. A lot of that's because, he wasn't throwing the ball very much. Had trouble pushing it down the field. Only averaged 186 yards passing per game. He took a league-high 55 sacks, but, it's hard as a rookie when you have a horrific offensive line and not a whole lot of weapons. Yeah, turmoil and your coaching staff. It's hard to really learn as a rookie. But showed some problems towards the end of the year. If Titans can push the right buttons in free agency, Cam Ward could be in a position to maybe take a step forward in year 2. At 20, I have Tyler Shuck. Shuck was a guy who I thought the Saints reached on in the second round, but I may have been proven wrong because he actually played some pretty good football, took over midseason the reins from Spencer Rattler. I thought played pretty well, especially considering the circumstances. Ended up with 9 starts. He completed 67% of his passes for over 2,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Was very good down the stretch for a Saints team that actually, I think, won like 5 of the last 7 of the right games. Played some good football in the second half of the season. Maybe finally starting to identify a couple of young pieces on that group. May finally have a legit shot to actually win the NFC South next year. They've been really bad these last few years. Obviously, very old and an overpaid roster. But Shuck, who we all thought was kind of a joke of a pick, might actually be something. I mean, 26-year-old rookie is kind of ridiculous, but played pretty well. So we'll see what happens next year. But he showed some flashes down the stretch. At 27, I have Jacoby Brissett. So he had a lot of games to where he threw for a lot of yards. I think one game he had the most passing by any quarterback in the game ever. He was, because they were so bad, they were down in like every single game pretty much that he was in. But look, he started 12 games last year. He completed 64, almost 65% of his passes, over 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. Numbers a tiny bit misleading. Again, he stat padded in a lot of games. A lot of games they were down 20-plus points in the fourth quarter. He was just throwing the ball every single time. So he's racking up a lot more, yards, like empty stats is what I call it. But he was relatively serviceable considering His receiving core was whatever Marvin Harrison Jr. was. He was hurt a bunch. Michael Wilson, and no running game. And the sitting Duck head coach, obviously only won one game in those 12 starts, but he didn't win football games, but he performed well enough to where I could see the Cardinals possibly running it back with him, considering Kyler Murray is going to be let go. And he looked better than Kyler Murray did. And Kyler Murray was supposed to be a franchise quarterback, was first overall pick. Brissett's a career backup. He's going to be 34 years old this coming season. So he was relatively serviceable considering he was thrown into the fire. 25, so 26, I have Jackson Dart. I thought did a good job as a rookie. After Dable got fired, I thought he struggled a bit. He's got to do a better job of protecting himself. He had a bunch of concussion issues, but considering he had no Malik Neighbors and no Cam Scatterbuff for a lot of his run this year, completing 63% of your passes for 2,200 yards, 15 tutties, and 5 picks. Those are pretty good numbers. Everything considered. Also had 487 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground this year. So I think future was bright for Jackson Dart going into his second year this coming season. 25 is Kyler Murray. I've never been high on Kyler. If you've watched the show for more than 5 minutes, from like August to February, ever, I have been doing the show for 5 years at this point. I'm not a fan of Kyler Murray. Overhyped, overpaid, overrated. He's just not that guy. But he maybe, in the right situation, could be a fine fill-in quarterback somewhere. Last year only started 5 games before getting injured. 68% of his passes for 960 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. Last fully replayed was in 2024. Completed 68% of his passes, 3,800 yards, 21 touchdowns against 11 interceptions. If you watch this game, you know this guy really isn't it. But in a better situation, maybe could be a serviceable starter. 24th is Tua. You know the deal with Tua. Was not good this past year. He just had so many concussions, so many injuries that he's not the same quarterback anymore. He can't, make plays with his legs anymore, really. I think in the right situation, he could be a serviceable bridge quarterback, but that's really about it. 23rd is Kirk Cousins. I thought Kirk Cousins was actually relatively serviceable this past season, considering he was coming, first full year of torn Achilles. He was obviously very old. He was 37 years old. But started 8 games, completed 61% of his passes for over 1,700 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's not near the same, but it looks like Atlanta's probably going to cut him to avoid the guaranteed money that's on his contract this year and next year. But I think he'll be a star somewhere next year just because of the lack of options at the quarterback position. He's played in the league for a long time. He's taking a team to the playoffs a couple of times. He's been in the Pro Bowler 4 times. Probably means nothing at this point in time. Sure, Sam has been a Pro Bowler. That's all you need to know. But I thought was slightly better than expected, that the offense looked better with him than with Michael Penix down the stretch. So he'll probably be a star somewhere next year. At 22nd, I have CJ Stroud. Fall from grace from this guy so far after a brilliant rookie year. I struggled the last 2 years, but had a lot of injuries this past year. Next year he'll have Joe Mixon healthy. He'll have Nico Collins hopefully a little bit more healthy. He'll have Tank Dell healthy. Hopefully they put some better pieces on that offensive line around him. But this is probably his last chance. If he struggles again, that rookie is going to look like an anomaly, even more so, and they'll probably be looking somewhere else at quarterback. But he bounces back, that's going to earn him a big payday. At 21st, it's Bryce Young. I was going back and forth whether or not to put Bryce Young ahead of Stroud or flip him. But I just think Bryce Young had a better year than Stroud did last year. He's progressed a little bit more than Stroud has the last 2 years. Somewhat sold on Bryce last year, completed 63% of his passes for just over 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns against 11 interceptions. He had some clutch drives late in games. He also had a lot where he did not show up. Still is a bit limited as a passer. Just does not have a great arm. He's still quite erratic with the football. But he's getting better. Going to be 25 years old next year, and what's probably make or break for him because, again, it's year 4, number 1 overall pick. They traded the universe to get him. If it's another year, they might be like, yeah, this guy might not be that guy. But again, he goes up next year and really progresses finally. He could be looking, at a $200 million payday in 2027. 20th Is Aaron Rodgers, probably going to be his last season? Not sure. I'll say this. He wasn't good, but for a guy who was 42, he was pretty good. He can play 65% of his passes for 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns against 7 interceptions. He's one of the greatest of all time. I'm not a fan of the guy. I think he's a bit of a dickhead, but 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, 4-time league MVP. You can't deny him. Playing at a decently high level into his 40s. He's one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time at the very least. But I think this is it for Aaron Rodgers. It should be because he has nothing left really in the tank. At 19, I have Caleb Williams. And the quarterback play in the league has really dropped off these last few years compared to the 2010s. You know what I feel about Caleb Williams? He was slightly better. He had a lot of clutch moments this past year, but still, very erratic with the ball. A couple of times, big moments he did not come up big. 27 ties against 7 picks is a good ratio. Over 1,300 yards, but only 50% of his passes are being completed. He still has a lot of work to do for sure. 18 is Daniel Jones. I thought this was fair. He was obviously hurt the last 7 or 8 games of the year. He started 13 games, so he was injured down the stretch, but overall played well when he was healthy. Completed 68% of his passes for about 3,100 yards, 19 touchdowns against 8 picks. He played very well when he was healthy. And I think if he's healthy again, he might be able to do it again with the Colts if they tag him. At 17th is Baker Mayfield. He had a bit of a down year compared to the first couple of years in Tampa where he did play very well for the Buccaneers. He was definitely playing through some injuries. But he completed 63% of his passes for 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 picks. First half of the year, people were saying he should be the MVP. He was bowling out of his mind. Second half of the year, he definitely struggled. But he's obviously come a long way since his Cleveland days. I'm still not really a true fan, but he's definitely a much better player than obviously he was when he started his career. I think if he's healthy this coming year, the team is healthy, he can play a little bit better. 16th is Jared Goff. Goff's a little bit overrated, so I definitely have him lower than I did last year going into the year. But he's still a decent quarterback. He definitely benefits from some elite weapons in an elite system in Detroit, but he completed 68% of his passes for 4,500 yards, 34 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. Problem is, game on the line, not the most clutch quarterback in the world by any means, and is not good in the cold weather. Certain guys are like that. The common theme is a lot of times Goff's a California kid, started playing in Los Angeles. He grew up there with the college at Cal, got drafted by the LA Rams. But no excuse. Aaron Rodgers was grew up in California, went to college at Cal, got drafted by Green Bay Packers and became a Hall of Famer. So there's no excuse. Tom Brady grew up in San Francisco, got drafted to the Patriots, became the greatest of all time. There's no excuse. Goff, some empty stats here, but he's a decent quarterback, but just not elite. 15th, I have Jalen Hurts. So for all you, especially Eagle fans that think this is criminally too low, shut the hell up. I don't care anymore. Jalen Hurts is not bad. I have him as a 15th quarterback in the league. He's an average starter. He benefits from the weapons around him. He completes 64% of his passes for 3,200 yards, 25 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. He's a system quarterback. When he's in an elite system, like Shane Steichen had in 2022, and he has the right weapons around him, he can be a very good quarterback. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He's overall been a good postseason performer. But when he doesn't, it all falls apart. But what he's got going for him is he's very smart. He's a good leader, very careful with the football, but just does not have a very good arm. And that comes back to bite him a lot. At 45, Jaden Daniels. I'm not sure if it seems too low for a guy who was historically great as a rookie, but rough time is in the second year. Was hurt a lot, only starts 7 games. But I think he will bounce back. I really like the talent on this kid. I think he will bounce back, especially if Washington does a better job this offseason putting some talent around him, which I think they will. But rough second year, so I lower him to 14th in the rankings. 13th is Brock Purdy. He was hurt for a bunch this past year, but he did play very well when he was healthy. In the 9 starts, completed 69% of his passes for over 2,100 yards, 20 touchdowns against 10 interceptions. Outside of the Seattle Seahawks games, they had the best defense in the NFL with this year. Of course, they just won a Super Bowl. He was really, really good. He had some big games this year. When healthy, he's a decent quarterback. All the jokes aside about him. 12th, I have Bo Nix. I'm not sure if it seems a little bit high for Bo Nix, but I think it's appropriate. I overall thought he was very good this past year. I know he had some games where he, went almost half a game without really producing a whole lot. But overall, I thought he played well. Had a lot of clutch moments. Big reason why Denver won 14 games. Complete 63% of his passes for over 3,900 yards, 25 touchdowns against 11 interceptions. Very underrated that downfield passer. Also ran for 356 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had 30 total touchdowns this year. Only going to be 25 next year, or 26. I think he'll only get better. 11, I have Jordan Love. Love, I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Love compared to some other people, but very good downfield passer. He's a good quarterback. Overall, did play well last year when he was healthy. 15 starts, missed 2 games because of an injury. Despite playing due to some injuries, a lot of his weapons were hurt. Complete 66% of his passes for over 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Hopefully he's healthy this coming year. When healthy, he is a very good quarterback. Top 10. At 10, I have Trevor Lawrence. Now, I've never been the biggest fan of him. I think he comes up short more often than not, but he did have, I would say, the best year of his career. A little under 61% completion percentage, but did clear 4,000 yards, had 29 touchdowns against 12 interceptions. He also had 309 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. He had what I thought was the best year of his career, but, again, a lot of his damage came in the second half of the year, which is better than the first half of the year, but he's got to put it together. But for now, I have him at 10. At 9, I have Dak Prescott. I think Dak had a good year. He was let down by the defense a lot. Still don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he can play 67% of his passes for 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns against 10 interceptions. He had a good year. He's a decent quarterback. At 8, I have Justin Herbert. Look, his playoff struggles are concerning. He's got to perform better in the playoffs. He's got to win a playoff game at some point. However, he had no offensive line. A lot of injuries. In the regular season, he can play 66% of his passes for 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns against 13 interceptions. He's still a very good quarterback. He was doing that while playing through a hand injury and had no offensive line. At 7, I got Sam Darnold. For those of you that think this is too high, screw you. I don't care. This guy bowled out. Complete 67% of his passes for over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns against 14 picks. Did lose 6 fumbles, 20 turnovers in the regular season, was the most in the league, but he was good in the postseason. He bowled out against the Rams in the conference championship game. He wasn't great against New England, but didn't turn the ball over, did what he needed to do. 0 turnovers in the postseason. He's a very good quarterback. Kudos to him. And he's a Super Bowl champion. Most guys in this league cannot say that right now. Number 6, I have Drake May. For all you Patriots fans, I think I have this guy too low. Screw you. I don't care. He's not a bad quarterback. He's very good. This year completed 72% of his passes, which is crazy. For over 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. But he played a very easy schedule. Struggled in the postseason. He's still young. Only 24. I think he'll be a great quarterback for a long time. I'm not ready to crown him as a top 5 quarterback yet, but I have him at number 6. Top 5. 5 is Lamar. Down into his past year with battling a bunch of injuries. Lamar's running out of time to win a Super Bowl, but still one of the elite talents in the game. 4 is Joe Burrow. Another guy who was hurt a lot this past year, missed 9 games, but when he's healthy, I think he made the most talented quarterback in the game. Just needs some more help. At 3, I do have Josh Allen. I came in hard on him after the playoff loss. He's got to stop losing early in the playoffs, but he's a great talent, at the very least, a very good regular season quarterback. 2, I have Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is still Mahomes. Got hurt at the end of the year and now didn't make the playoff, but he's still an elite talent. Number 1 is Matthew Stafford. He was MVP this year for a reason. Complete 65% of his passes for over 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. Well-deserved MVP. Going to be a Hall of Famer one day. He's going to be 38 next year and showing no signs of slowing down. He can still sling it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another ring before the end of his career. And if he does, if Stafford wins another ring before the end of his career, I think it's a case to make him top 10 all time. I know it sounds crazy. He's made Pro Bowl 3 times, but I think there is a legit case there for Matthew Stafford. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.